Unbelievable. Her adopted son kicked her out, only to discover $9.5 million hidden away. Margie Thompson sat in her car, the July heat pressing down like a burdened heart, her tears streaking the mascara she'd applied that morning. Just hours earlier, she'd faced the unthinkable. Her son Alex, hurt and fueled by anger, had kicked her out of their modest home. The pain felt like a dagger twisting with every memory of late-night talks over warm cookies, his laughter filling the small kitchen, and their many shared moments of joy. Now, all that remained was silence, echoing deeply as she replayed their argument, every word slashing like shattered glass. With a heavy heart, Margie reflected on her journey as a single mother. It had been almost 4 years since she adopted Alex, a brilliant yet troubled boy who had come into her life after an unimaginable tragedy that haunted the town. They were a family, or so she believed until tonight's confrontation, where accusations flew like arrows. In Alex's eyes, everything she'd done, the meals, the encouragement, the love, suddenly seemed to mean nothing. "You never told me the truth," he had yelled, eyes ablaze. The thought of withholding anything from him felt like betrayal, and the weight of his misunderstanding crushed her. Alex slumped against the worn-out sofa at home, fists clenched, heart racing. He felt a swirl of resentment and anguish, an unsettling cocktail of emotions that twisted inside him. Growing up as a black boy in a predominantly white town always felt heavy, and now, he was convinced Margie had kept secrets about his biological parents. He needed answers, and fast. In a frenzy, he began to sift through the old family documents piled in the corner of his room, desperately searching for clues about his past. What he found was staggering: a hidden inheritance of $9.5 million that his parents had intended for him. His breath caught. The money could mean freedom, a life far from the whispered judgments he faced daily. But something nagged at him deeper than dollars and cents: the bond he shared with Margie. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Days passed, stretching into an agonizing silence. Margie continued her catering business, her warm smile plastered on even as her heart felt heavy. She missed Alex, his laughter, the way they shared music in the kitchen while preparing meals. Each dish she prepared was made with love, but now, it felt like forcing joy. Would Alex come home? Would she be able to forgive him? And as Alex stood on the precipice of rediscovering who he was, nudged by the glow of wealth and comfort, he couldn't shake the yearning deep inside him. Was he willing to trade the love of the woman who had raised him for the allure of a monetary safety net? In the depths of the night, when dreams turned into shadows, the vital question remained: what does it truly mean to be family? Sitting alone, both of them were lost in their thoughts, staring at the horizon that hinted at possibilities yet left both feeling trapped. Would Margie's heart mend, or would the weight of their conflict drive them further apart? The silence screamed for a resolution, yet the distance in their hearts felt like an unbridgeable chasm. What decision awaited them as the days turned toward uncertain tomorrows? The air was thick with tension as Margie drove through the familiar streets. Each house she passed felt like a reminder of what she had lost. She glanced at her phone, willing it to ring, to see Alex's name flash across the screen. But it remained silent, just like their home. Back at her small apartment, the isolation felt suffocating. She sat on the edge of her bed, the weight of loneliness pressing against her chest. Margie closed her eyes, letting the memories wash over her. The sound of Alex's laughter was still fresh, a melody she longed to hear again. The warmth of their bond felt equally distant now, a flicker of what used to be. How had it come to this? Meanwhile, Alex found himself in a whirlwind of decisions. The documents lay scattered before him, each page revealing secrets he had never known. His money sparked a fire within him, but the thought of the damage it could bring also gnawed at him. Memories of Margie flooded his mind. Every embrace, every pep talk had built a foundation that money could never replace. But his confusion about his identity was overwhelming. Questions about his parents and who he really was plagued him. Late into the night, Alex found himself staring at the ceiling, wrestling with turmoil. What was more important, his heritage or the love he had? He could feel the weight of the money pressing down on him, a palpable manifestation of both promise and pain. He imagined all the things he could do: college, a fresh start, perhaps even a chance to escape the whispers that seemed to follow him. Yet, every glance toward the family photos on his wall brought him back to Margie. A few blocks away, Margie's thoughts spiraled too. She picked up her phone and dialed a number: her best friend Carla. The phone rang several times before Carla answered, her voice laced with concern. "Margie. I've been worried about you. What is going on?" Margie struggled to find her voice. The dam of emotions broke, and words flowed out, painting a picture of hurt and betrayal. Carla listened quietly, only interrupting occasionally with soft murmurs of understanding. "I just feel so lost. I thought we were a family. I never meant to hurt him." Margie choked on her words. "Now, I don't know how to fix this. Have you tried reaching out?" Carla suggested, her tone encouraging. "You both need to talk. Maybe there's more to the story than you realize." "I don't even know if he wants to hear from me," Margie whispered, the uncertainty tightening its grip on her heart. But Carla's reassurance sparked something within her. She needed to try. That night, as Alex finally succumbed to sleep, he dreamt of his past, of laughter, joy, and the warmth of a mother's embrace. It was a safe space where money didn't matter, and love reigned supreme. The next morning, with a newfound determination, Margie wrote Alex a letter. No fancy words, just raw honesty about her feelings, her fears, and her hopes. After sealing the letter, she made a decision. She would give it to him in person. Maybe it was time to face the silence between them and bridge the aching distance. And as Alex received the envelope at his doorstep that day, he felt a flutter of anxiety mixed with hope. Confusion lingered, but so did an undeniable connection. Would this letter be the spark to reignite what he thought they had lost? Little did both realize that the choices they made in the coming moments could alter the course of their futures forever. As they stood on the brink of confrontation, one question lingered: could they uncover the truth behind their pain and heal together? Margie stood outside Alex's apartment, letter in hand, battling her nerves. The weight of the envelope felt heavy, as if it carried all her regrets and hopes in one fragile slip of paper. She took a deep breath, the cool air infiltrating her lungs, steadied her racing heart. "This is it," she whispered to herself, willing herself forward. As she approached the door, she hesitated, memories of happier times flashing before her. Laughter echoed in her mind, the warmth of their shared moments like a comforting blanket. But that warmth felt thin, replaced by the chill of their separation. She raised her hand, ready to knock, when the door swung open. Alex stood there, looking disheveled and weary, a shadow of his former self. The moment their eyes met, a jolt of electricity surged between them. Pain and longing danced across his expression, mirroring the tangled emotions inside her. "Margie," he breathed, his voice barely above a whisper. "Alex," she started, but the lump in her throat choked off any further words. Instead, she held out the letter, her hands trembling slightly. "I wrote this for you." He glanced at the envelope, then back at her, uncertainty etched on his face. "A letter? It's everything. I needed you to know how I feel, how sorry I am," she replied, frustration creeping into her voice. "Please, just read it." With a reluctant nod, he took the letter and stepped aside, allowing her to enter. Margie walked into the familiar space, but everything felt different. The silence screamed louder than their unspoken words. As Alex sat down at the kitchen table, he carefully opened the envelope. Margie watched as he read, his brow furrowing deeper with each line. She could see the chaotic storm in his eyes, shifting from surprise to disbelief. Finally, he looked up, confusion mingled with emotions she couldn't quite decipher. "You didn't tell me about all of this," he said, voice shaky. "About how you felt, about us." "I know," she replied softly. "I should have. And I can't change the past, but I want to try and make things better." "But can we? After everything?" The question hung in the air, heavy with the weight of their shared history. Margie felt the tears prick the back of her eyes. "I didn't mean to hurt you. You mean more to me than any of this." He waved a hand dismissively at the letter, his mind racing. "And what about the money? What does that even change for us?" Margie's heart sank. "I don't want it to change anything. My first priority has always been you." Alex let out a bitter laugh. "I'm just supposed to forget everything? Forget how all this started? This money, Alex, it doesn't define you. It shouldn't define us," she implored, moving closer. "We have a chance to heal, to rediscover what's truly important. Please, let us not let this ruin every good thing we built together." Tension filled the room as they stared at each other, searching for something hidden, something that could bridge the divide. Finally, Alex broke eye contact, running a hand through his hair. "I don't even know what to do with all this," he muttered, glancing at the letter again. "I want to believe you, but it feels like everything is falling apart." And in that moment, Margie felt a sense of urgency tighten around her heart. "Then let us figure it out together," she urged. He took a deep breath, staring back at her, the flicker of hope igniting beneath the layers of hurt. "Together." But just as they reached a fragile understanding, a loud knock echoed through the apartment. Startled, they both turned toward the door, hearts racing. "Who is that?" Margie whispered, dread pooling in the pit of her stomach. Alex shrugged, eyebrows knitting together in concern. "I don't know." As he moved to open the door, Margie's pulse quickened. What if it was someone who would change everything again? The door creaked open, revealing a tall figure shrouded in shadows. The words that followed sent a chill down Margie's spine. "I know about the money, and I need to talk to you both." But was it too late for their rekindled hope? Margie's pulse raced. Her heart felt as though it had plummeted to her stomach. The figure at the door was not someone she recognized, but there was an intensity in his gaze that unsettled her deeply. "Who are you?" Alex asked, the edge of anger creeping into his voice. The stranger stepped into the light, revealing a sharp jaw and weary eyes. "My name is Daniel," he stated calmly. "I'm an investigator." "Investigator? What are you investigating?" Margie dared to ask, crossing her arms, hoping to project a confidence she didn't feel. Daniel took a breath, and for a moment, he seemed to weigh his words. "I'm looking into some financial discrepancies concerning a large sum of money, specifically, something involving a trust fund connected to you." "Why would you be investigating me?" Alex interjected, standing protectively next to Margie. The investigator's eyes flickered between them, assessing. "Because you're both involved. Both your names are linked to this fund." Margie felt her knees weaken. The air around her tightened, making it hard to breathe. "What do you mean?" she asked, her voice trembling. "Someone has been using your names. It's complicated, but there's money that is rightfully yours. $9.5 million, to be exact. But it's all tangled up in layers of deception." Silence engulfed the room, thick and suffocating. Margie and Alex exchanged glances, confusion intermingling with hope. It felt surreal, like a plot twist in a movie. "Are you serious?" Margie barely whispered. "I wouldn't be here if I weren't. But it's crucial that you understand. This money is tied to the very issues you've been facing. There's a lot at stake." The tension in Alex's body didn't dissipate. "At stake? What do you mean, at stake?" Daniel took a step closer as he spoke. There are parties interested in this money, and they will do anything to keep it secret. If you want your share, if you want clarity, you need to act fast. They don't play nice. Margie's heart raced again, this time with a mix of urgency and fear. And how do we do that? I need both of you to trust me. I can help you, but you must be prepared for what's coming. Daniel paused, allowing the weight of his words to settle. This situation goes deeper than finances. It could bring to light truths about your lives you may not be ready to face. Margie felt dizzy. All this time, her focus had been on rebuilding her relationship with Alex, and now they were caught in a storm of secrets. Were they ready to face these new challenges? How much more could they endure? What if we don't want to get involved? Alex blurted out, crossing his arms tightly. What if we want to walk away? You can, Daniel replied, his voice steady. But running won't protect you. The reality is, this money might end up causing you more problems if you ignore it. Not to mention the potential threats from those keeping an eye on it. The implications hung heavy in the air. Margie felt torn, caught between her desire for a fresh start with Alex and the reality of what was unraveling before them. She turned to Alex, searching his face for answers. What do we do? Why can't anything just be easy? He replied, his voice strained. Because life isn't easy, she answered softly, tears threatening to spill again. But maybe this could give us a chance at something new. A fresh beginning. Daniel nodded. If you choose to fight together, you'll need to prepare. I won't sugarcoat this, it's going to get messy. As Margie nodded her agreement, understanding the weight of the road ahead, she felt the flicker of hope reignite within her. They had to take this leap, even if the landing was uncertain. But, just as they seemed to focus on this new path, a sudden crash reverberated from outside, a sound that sent shockwaves through the apartment, and Margie's heart dropped once more. What was that? She gasped, glancing to Alex, their fears amplifying exponentially in an instant. Daniel's face went serious. We need to move. Now. Could they really be ready for whatever was coming next? Margie stumbled back, her breath quickening. The crash outside felt like the world had shifted on its axis. Alex moved closer, his protective instincts rising. What's happening? Daniel's expression was grave as he turned toward the noise. It's probable they've found us. We have to leave now. Who's found us? Margie's voice was almost a whisper, the fear twisting in her stomach. She couldn't think straight, each second stretching out in terrifying slowness. People who want that money kept hidden, Daniel replied, urgency in his tone. And they won't hesitate to go through you to get what they want. Before Margie could process his words, another loud thud echoed through the hallway, followed by shouts. Come on. Daniel urged, grabbing Margie's arm. We're out of time. In a daze, Margie grabbed her handbag, and Alex took her other hand. Together they followed Daniel, who led them through the apartment's back door and into the narrow alley behind the building. The evening light flicked against the bricks, casting long shadows that felt ominous. Do you have a car? Daniel asked, glancing over his shoulder. Just parked out front, Alex replied, glancing nervously toward the street. We will have to run for it. Then let us make it quick. Stick together, Daniel ordered, his voice sharp as he pulled them both forward, their feet barely making a sound on the cold pavement. As they darted around the corner, Margie couldn't help but feel a weight of dread settle over her. Why this? Why now? Her heart pounded close to her throat, the reality of their situation edging in like a shadowy hand reaching out to clutch her tight. They reached the front of the building, but what they found sent chills down Margie's spine. A couple of men stood near Alex's car, their faces hidden under dark hoods. One of them glanced over and met her eyes, a cold smile breaking through. Get in the back. Daniel shouted, swiftly pushing Alex and Margie toward the car. Wait. Alex's voice cracked. What do we do? Just do it. Now. Margie climbed into the back seat, pulling Alex in after her. They both huddled, their breaths quickening as Daniel slid behind the wheel. He looked in the rearview mirror, his expression tense. Hold on. With a screech of tires, they sped away just as the men turned, shouting after them. Margie's heart raced not only from the escape but also from the realization of how close they came to being caught. What the hell is going on? Alex demanded, his voice a mixture of anger and sheer terror. It's because of the trust fund, Daniel responded, his eyes straight ahead. They don't want you to know about it. It's deeper than I initially thought. There are others involved, dangerous people. Margie felt her stomach drop again. Who? It's complicated. But there's no time for that now, Daniel said tightly. You need to be ready for a fight. And more importantly, you need to trust me. Margie felt the weight of the choice pressing down on her. They were already so deep into this mess, but there was no turning back. She exchanged a glance with Alex, who seemed equally lost. Daniel, what is our next move? She asked, trying to sound calmer than she felt. The first step is to lay low until I can find out more. I have contacts who can help, but we need to be off the grid for a bit. Where to? Alex asked, his voice harsh with anxiety. Daniel's jaw tightened as he inched onto a quieter road. Somewhere safe. For now we just drive. We need to figure this out before they find us. Margie couldn't shake the tightening feeling in her chest. Life had felt chaotic before, now it felt like being swept into a storm. Would they be able to weather this? And what truths lay in wait, buried beneath layers of deception and danger? The car glided through the darkening streets, but Margie's pulse was still racing. Each second felt like a countdown, and she couldn't shake off the sense that they were heading towards something much bigger than either of them had imagined. What if it's too late? She murmured, more to herself than anyone else. Daniel turned to her for a brief moment, his eyes piercing into her with determination. It's not too late. But you have to believe it. Would believing it be enough to get them through? The car slid through the quiet streets, tires gripping the asphalt as the tension inside felt almost suffocating. The hum of the engine was a stark contrast to the chaos brewing in Margie's mind. She couldn't shake the feeling that danger lurked just around the corner. What's your plan, Daniel? Alex pressed, his voice strained. You can't just expect us to sit in the back seat while you figure everything out. Margie could see the muscles in Daniel's jaw tense as he gripped the steering wheel. Look, right now, we need to focus on staying safe. I have a place we can go. A safe house. A safe house. The term felt so surreal. Margie had thought of safety in terms of her childhood home, a warm place filled with laughter and love. Now, she was running for her life, and home felt like a distant memory. Will they follow us? Margie dared to ask, her voice a whisper. Daniel's gaze flickered to the rearview mirror, his expression tightening. I don't know, but we can't take any chances. They know about the money, and they'll do whatever it takes to get to it. The silence that followed was thick with uncertainty. Margie felt a sense of heaviness settle in her stomach. The money meant nothing to her if it put her life on the line. She felt like a marionette, strings pulled taut by unseen hands. What happens if they find us, Daniel? Alex spat, his fear bubbling to the surface. You keep saying we have to fight, but what if we can't? There's always a way, Daniel said, his voice steely. Trust me. They're not as invincible as they seem. But the doubt lingered in Margie's heart. She knew it was a dangerous game they were playing, and the stakes felt impossibly high. She glanced at Alex, who seemed torn between anger and fear. He was right, they needed answers. Do you even know who we're up against? She asked, her voice steadying as she searched for validation. Daniel hesitated, and in that moment, Margie felt time stretch. Not everything. But I have a lead. Someone who knows the players involved. A shiver ran down her spine. And what if they want to silence you too? Just like they want to silence us. Daniel let out a heavy breath. That's a risk we'll have to take. But it's the only way forward. Margie swallowed hard, processing their fragile existence in that moment. And what do we do when we find them? If they pose a threat, how do we fight? The look on Daniel's face softened, and for a brief moment, she saw a flicker of doubt. We fight with everything we have. For the truth. For our lives. The harsh reality of that statement echoed between them. Were they prepared to fight against the shadows that seemed ready to swallow them whole? Just then, Daniel's phone buzzed to life, vibrating against the dashboard. His expression shifted as he picked it up. "It's my contact," he said, glancing at the screen. "I need to take this." Margie and Alex exchanged nervous glances. Every second felt charged. What did he know? What were they about to walk into? "Be careful, please," Margie urged, her heart racing as Daniel brought the phone to his ear. He nodded, trying to reassure her, but his gaze was distant, focused on something beyond them, something looming. "Yeah, it's urgent. We need to meet." And as he spoke, the world outside the car began to blur, and Margie felt a chill sweep through her, tinged with the uncertainty of what lay ahead. Would they emerge from this tangled web or become part of the darkness threatening to consume them? The end of the call brought silence, thick and heavy as they awaited the implications of his words. "What did they say?" Margie asked, holding her breath. Daniel's gaze flickered to them, determination flaring in his eyes. "They know where we can find information on the trust fund. But it's risky. We have to act fast." "Then what are we waiting for?" Alex's voice rose, a mix of urgency and frustration. "Let's just hope it's not already too late," Daniel murmured, as the shadows of the night seemed to draw closer around them. The air felt electric as Daniel turned to face them, his expression a blend of determination and urgency. Margie could sense the weight of the moment, not just the ticking clock, but the very lives that hung in the balance. She furrowed her brow, wrestling the whirlpool of emotions swirling within her. "Where do we go?" Alex asked, glancing nervously out the car windows as if expecting a face to appear in the reflection. "There's an old warehouse on the edge of town," Daniel replied, shifting the car into gear. "It's not much, but it's the safest spot I could think of." Margie nodded, feeling a steely resolve forming. "We need to be careful. No mistakes." "If they're onto us we'll be fine," Daniel interrupted, his voice clipped but firm. "Just stick together, okay? We'll figure this out." The car sped along the deserted roads, the headlights chasing shadows. Margie's heart raced with the rhythmic thud of uncertainty. She gazed at Alex, who was biting his lip, a telltale sign of his anxiety. "We're going to make it," she promised, even though she wasn't sure herself. As they navigated the corners, the world outside grew more desolate. The heart of the city faded behind them, and the buildings took on a ghostly silhouette against the night sky. It felt as if they were venturing into an untouched wilderness, a world where anything could happen. "Do you think we can really trust this contact?" Margie whispered, the edges of her voice betraying her apprehension. Daniel glanced in the rearview mirror again, his jaw tightening. "I've worked with them before. They won't betray us. At least, I hope not." The doubt lingered like fog. Margie leaned against the window, watching the landscapes blur, mirroring the confusion in her mind. She needed to be brave, she needed to fight for herself, for Alex, and for a future that was slipping through her fingers. After a tense few minutes, Daniel finally pulled into the warehouse parking lot. The building loomed ahead, dark and intimidating, its rusty facade a reminder of forgotten times. Even the flickering streetlight outside barely cast off any glow, seeming to swallow the light into the vast abyss of night. "Here we are," Daniel said, the weight of the moment pressing onto them as he killed the engine. The silence enveloped them like a heavy blanket. Margie's stomach churned as she surveyed the area. This place, it feels off. We have to take our chances, Daniel replied, gathering his courage as he unbuckled his seatbelt. They stepped out of the car, the crunch of gravel underfoot breaking the stillness. Margie felt a chill run through her as she scanned the shadows, feeling eyes on her from every corner. She shivered, pulling her jacket tighter around her. "Stick together," Daniel said, a fierce protectiveness in his eyes as he led the way to the dark entrance. The air inside the warehouse was stale, filled with an eerie silence that magnified their footsteps. Margie felt every inch of the walls closing in on her, shadows dancing ominously against the bricks. "What's the plan once we find this contact?" Alex asked, his voice quivering slightly. "Get information and get out. We won't linger longer than we have to," Daniel assured, pacing forward. The anxiety was palpable, and Margie felt a lump form in her throat. Suddenly, a faint sound echoed through the warehouse, a soft scraping, like something being dragged across the floor. Daniel's posture stiffened, and Margie's heart jumped into her throat. "Did you hear that?" she murmured, fear crackling in the air between them. "Stay behind me," Daniel commanded as they crept further into the darkness, every step weighed down by uncertainty. The shadows shifted, and for a moment, it felt as if something dreadful was lurking just out of sight. Margie took a deep breath, summoning her courage. This was the moment. What awaited them in the dark could change everything. But would it lead them to the answers, or further into the abyss? Just as they rounded a corner, a faint light flickered ahead, and Margie froze. What lay ahead could seal their fate. "Is that them?" she whispered, dread pooling at the base of her stomach. "Let us find out," Daniel replied, and they pressed on, stepping into the unknown. The faint light quivered ahead, casting long shadows on the concrete floor. Margie's instincts screamed at her to turn back, plunging her deeper into uncertainty. Daniel stepped cautiously, every muscle tense, while Alex remained close behind, his fear palpable. "What if it's a trap?" Margie's voice trembled, barely above a whisper. "Then we improvise," Daniel replied, eyes narrowed with focus. But she noticed a flicker of doubt in his expression. It felt too risky. They were venturing into the unknown without knowledge of who or what awaited them. As they shuffled closer, the light flickered more rapidly. Margie squinted, trying to make out the figure that was gradually emerging from the shadows. A silhouette, shrouded in mystery. Heart pounding, she took a small step forward, her curiosity battling her instinct to flee. "Hello?" Daniel called out, his voice echoing into the abyss. The figure straightened, revealing a man dressed in a weathered leather jacket, his face obscured by the brim of a worn-out hat. "Who are you?" the stranger replied, his voice rough like gravel. It sent a chill straight through Margie. "We were told to meet," Daniel began, but the stranger lifted a hand, cutting him off. "Enough. Come closer, but don't try anything stupid." He stepped into the light, eyes glinting with an intensity that made Margie shiver. "I know why you're here." That piercing stare sent a surge of adrenaline through her. This man had information. Information they desperately needed. But with every answer he held, there was potential danger lurking just beneath the surface. "What do you know?" Margie pressed, stepping alongside Daniel, finding her voice despite the fear gnawing at her. "It ain't just about what you seek. It's also about who's after you." He shifted, revealing a small, battered folder he had tucked under one arm. "They're not just after you, they're after something much bigger. And that something might just be in your hands." Margie felt chills race down her spine. "In our hands?" "Exactly," the man continued, his gaze piercing into hers. "You've got more than you realize. You think you're just running for your lives, but it's deeper than that. Much deeper." "What do you mean?" Daniel asked, voice steady but laced with urgency. "It's not just about you. It's your families, your lives intertwined with this story larger than you can fathom. Silence hung heavy in the air. Margie's heart raced as she processed his words. She thought about her life, her decisions, how every choice led her to this moment. But could this man be trusted? Could his words even be taken at face value? Why should we believe you? Alex chimed in, voice barely concealing his trembling. The stranger smiled, but it felt cynical. Because you have no choice. They're already watching you. And if you want a chance at survival, you'll have to accept the truth of this tangled web. Margie's mind whirled with questions. Truth. They needed answers, and the stakes felt unbearably high. Who else knew? What did he know? Her instincts screamed at her to flee, yet a part of her was drawn in. Then tell us what we need to know, Daniel pressed, determination settling into his posture. And make it quick. For a brief moment, the stranger studied them, as if weighing his options. Finally, he reached into the folder and pulled out a single sheet of paper, holding it just out of reach. This changes everything, he declared, his voice low, sending waves of apprehension crashing over Margie. But first, do you have what it takes to play this game? The room filled with an oppressive silence, heavy with uncertainty. Margie looked at Daniel, then to Alex, feeling the weight of the unknown pressing in. Would they rise to the occasion, or would this path lead to their undoing? Can we really do this? She whispered, the gravity of the moment sinking in. As tension coiled around them, the stranger smiled, revealing a glimmer of mischief in his eyes. That's the million-dollar question. And trust me, life will never be the same after this. Just when Margie thought she could breathe, the sound of footsteps echoed from behind them, sending shockwaves of fear crashing through her. They weren't alone anymore. What had they walked into? Would they be able to navigate this dangerous game, or were they already trapped? Margie's heart raced as the echo of footsteps grew louder, slicing through the tension in the room. Her mind whirled with possibilities, each more terrifying than the last. Adrenaline coursed through her veins. They were cornered, and every instinct urged her to bolt. Stay close, Daniel whispered, grabbing her wrist tightly. Alex nodded, eyes wide as they turned together to face the shadows creeping into the flickering light. The footsteps came to a halt, and a figure appeared at the threshold. A woman, her hair disheveled and clothes tattered, emerged from the dark, panting as if she'd just run a marathon. Margie's pulse quickened, she looked completely frazzled and desperate. Help please, the woman gasped, tension etched deep into her features. They're coming. We need to move now. Who? Margie asked breathlessly, her throat dry as a bone. The ones looking for you. The woman's eyes darted past them, filled with urgency. They know you're here. We don't have time. This is not good, Daniel muttered under his breath, stealing a glance at the stranger, who hadn't moved but continued to watch them intently. The stranger raised an eyebrow, seemingly amused by the unfolding drama. Time's not our friend, that's for sure, he said, folding the paper back into the folder and slipping it away. But my advice? Don't trust anyone just because they speak with urgency. Everyone has a motive. What do you know about motives? Margie shot back, her confidence trembling. I know enough, he responded, his grin fading. But our focus is surviving this encounter. Keep your wits about you. The woman stepped further into the dim light, her face suddenly stark. I have information that you need, she said with a quiver in her voice. They're not just after you, they've got a target in your past. What do you mean? Alex's voice shook as he clutched Margie's arm, his fear inching toward panic. Don't you see? Your lives are tied to something much larger, something buried deep within your families, she explained, her tone desperate. If they find out what you're hiding, everything changes. Don't listen to her. The stranger interjected sharply, an edge creeping into his voice. She might be a distraction. But what if she is telling the truth? Margie countered, stepping toward the woman. Her instincts urged her to listen. There was something desperate and raw in those pleading eyes. Look, I don't have time to explain. All I know is they'll stop at nothing to get their hands on what's rightfully yours, the woman insisted. I can lead you to safety, but you have to trust me. Trust is a luxury we can't afford right now, Daniel said, his gaze flitting between the stranger and the newcomer. Yeah, but do we have any better options? Margie asked, searching Daniel's face for answers. He was their leader, the anchor when fear pulled them down. But now, the tension was palpable, and he looked just as uncertain as she felt. Before Daniel could respond, the sound of more footsteps drew closer, and the stranger turned sharply. What do we do now? He hissed, urgency flaring in his words. Out the back, the woman urged. Follow me. Margie turned to Daniel, silently pleading for direction. Would they really trust this stranger? Would this be another trap? Let us move. Daniel shouted, and they all lunged toward the darkened corridor behind the stranger. As they bolted, Margie felt the weight of choice bearing down on her, each step forward fraught with uncertainty. Would they find safety, or were they running headlong into danger? Just as they reached the doorway, a blinding light filled the space, freezing them in place. Shadows loomed large, and a voice boomed from the entrance. Stop right there. Margie's breath caught, heart pounding in her chest. They were out of options, and running straight into the unknown. What would happen next? Could they escape this tightening noose, or was this the moment everything would unravel? Margie's heart dropped as the light enveloped them, forcing her to squint against the blaze. Her instincts screamed to turn and run, but the voice commanded authority, chilling her bones. Stop right there. It was a deep voice, unmistakably laden with danger. Go. Daniel shouted, propelling them forward. Margie grabbed Alex's arm, terror coursing through her as they sprinted down the corridor. The sound of heavy footsteps echoed behind them, getting closer and closer with every frantic second. They dashed through the dark, the adrenaline surging fiercely. Margie's mind was a blur, racing to process the reality that had unfolded: danger, secrets, and now the threat that loomed over them. Just as they reached the end of the hallway, a sudden beam of light flashed directly in their eyes, and Margie skidded to a stop, almost colliding with Daniel. Now what? She hissed, scanning their surroundings. This way. Daniel pointed toward an emergency exit marked by a dim green sign glowing ominously. Together, they launched toward it, feet pounding against the cold concrete. They burst through the door, stepping into the frigid night air. Freedom, fresh air, it felt like a fleeting whisper of hope against the chaos swirling in their lives. Keep running, Daniel urged, glancing back only for a brief moment. The urgency in his voice yanked them back into action, and they sprinted across the lot, adrenaline pushing them forward. But as they ran, Margie could feel it, the connection severing from the familiar warmth she had taken for granted. What would come next? Just as they reached the edge of the lot, a car screeched to a halt in front of them, tires squealing, gravel flying. Get in! Shouted a familiar voice. It was Carla. Her eyes were wide with concern, filled with an unwavering determination. Without a second thought, they hopped in, Carla's urgency flowing through the quick movements of her hands as she hit the gas. What the hell is going on? Carla demanded, her gaze darting to Margie and Alex in the rearview mirror. It's a long story, Daniel said, his voice clipped. We're in serious trouble. We need to go off-grid. Off-grid? Carla spat incredulously. You thought this through? Just drive. Daniel snapped, voice firm. Margie's heart raced as they sped away, the city lights fading into the dark behind them. The fear was still wrapped tightly around her, but beneath it, a flicker of hope began to ignite. The unsettling weight inside her eased, just a little. They drove in silence, the tension suffocating. Margie could feel Alex's fingers clenching her arm, the unnerving heat of fear smoldering between them. Yet, in that panic, Margie realized something. They were alive. They were together. As they reached a secluded edge of town, Carla parked behind a rundown diner, the neon sign buzzing faintly. "We can rest here for a moment," she said, glancing nervously over her shoulder. "Everyone stay alert," Daniel insisted, voice low and cautious. "We don't know if they're watching us. We have to figure out our next move." But Margie felt sudden clarity. "No more running," she said, surprising even herself. "We need to stop and face whatever comes. For once, we have to be the ones to take control." Alex shifted beside her, surprised by her conviction. "But what do we do?" "It's simple. We find out the truth," Margie replied, steadying her breath, focusing her gaze on Daniel. "Whatever secrets surround that money, we need to uncover them. Together." Daniel met her eyes with a newfound respect. "You're right. We can't keep running. This is about more than just a trust fund, it's about our families, our futures. We need to take a stand." Margie felt a surge of warmth, a familiar sense of family building within them, stronger than fear. "I'm in." Alex's voice was firm, his determination rekindled. "Let us fight for what's ours, for us." "Agreed," Carla said, her voice steadying. "So what's next?" As Margie looked around at her friends, her heart felt full, reminiscent of late-night talks and shared laughter. Together, they were a makeshift family, bound by love, fear, determination, and a fierce need for clarity and truth. "Daniel, you said you have contacts. Let us reach out, find out everything we can." Her tone was sharp, filled with direction. "We need to fight together, and expose whoever wants to keep us in the dark." The group shared resolute glances, bravery emerging from vulnerability. They had faced darkness before, the fear of loss, betrayal. But they wouldn't let themselves be defined by that anymore. "All right," Daniel nodded, pulling out his phone as they rallied around him. "But we need a plan, and we need it now. We have to get ahead of this." Margie breathed deeply, the air felt charged with empowerment. "We will fight for the truth and protect what we love. Together." And as they aligned their hearts and minds, a new determination began to swell like the cracking dawn chasing away the shadows of the night. They were ready. This was their fight. Their story was just beginning. And it would not end until the truth was theirs. Now, it's your turn. Subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and show your support. Comment below with your reactions and feelings about this ending. Don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. You need to be a true fan and act now.